Welcome to this video that is a guide to beat Human Catcher Bug. That's not really the introduction to this video. This is the introduction to this video where we will take a look at battles from Savage Boy, a really good player from Norway, my teammate as well, and he has a very solid Open Grey League team, very meta, but I think that it will define Open Grey League for in both Go Battle League and competitive play currently. He got his inspiration from the graph that we made with our team, and from Dangi, also a really good player from Norway. You may have seen him at Worlds or in Malmo, where he plays top 4, and I'm not sure at Worlds. I don't think Worlds went too great, but he's a really good player nonetheless. Now, if you know Dangi, then you probably know what he's quite well known for, along with my good friend, a mind joke. It is Alolan Sandslash. And the other Pokemon, Medicham, that's also covering my face right now, is also defining, despite the Psychic Nerve defining the Open Grey League meta currently. And this core really is only core broken by Defense Deoxys. And one Pokemon that Savage Boy mentions he struggled with is Pelipper, but also because Pelipper is occasionally paired with fighters, and like if you get your Alolan Sandslash on a fighter, it's just kind of tough. Let's take a look at the team that he went with here. So this is the team on the right. This is a mind joke made for the Go Stadium graph featuring all those teams on it. And it's consisting of Medicham with counter, Ice Punch, Psychic. You need Psychic for opposing fighters. Your Medicham basically is the Pokemon that also counters other fighters. So that's what you need to be aware of. It has Diggersby. That's basically the safe switch here. It's also the Pokemon that baits out opposing fighters. And the reason why is because Diggersby just is so bulky and it can fight back quite well. Most fragile fighters you can one-shot with a Hyper Beam. He's running Hyper Beam and Scorching Sense with Mudshot on it. And Scorching Sense with 50 energy is cheap enough for Diggersby's bulk and its pace, right? With Mudshot you charge really quick. It's 5 Mudshots every time for Scorching Sense. So he's not running Fire Punch on that, but it makes a good safe switch because you need to bait out the fighter to make Alolan Sandslash work. Alolan Sandslash is one of the key Pokemon in this meta because it can fight well against everything, except Medicham. Don't tell him I joke that, he will disagree. Let's take a look at the first battle. First battle is, as we saw earlier, Human Catcher Bug. You may know him from YouTube, or he won Liverpool. He's pretty good. Medicham into Lantern, and looks like Human Catcher Bug decides to switch into Gligar immediately. Now, this is why Savage Boy stays into this, because an Ice Punch threatens the Gligar so much. It does about 60%, and you can live in Area Ace quite easily. It only does 44%, so he decides to stay in a little bit there. You do have to be careful of Dig, though. It does 94% on Alolan Sandslash. Now, one thing that I think Human Catcher Bug may not have known, he probably is running an attack with its Gligar here, but Sandslash wins the charge attack priority here, and this is crazy because Savage Boy actually just calls that bait. The reason why he does it is because if you know Human Catcher Bug, you know he loves Charizard, right? So that's why he does that. Probably trying to bait something out that counters Charizard. I'm not exactly sure what, maybe a Swampert, but Charizard is actually quite fine against that. In comes a Water Gun Lantern, so yeah, Driron is really good here too, right? This is where Alolan Sandslash just shines, because if there's no fighter, it's so annoying to take care of. And look at that, both swapping immediately after tanking that energy on the Lantern, trying to sweep with the Charizard, but it has no shields, and Savage Boy is in such a good spot here, because at this point, the Medicham is just going to one-shot this Shadow Charizard. I love Shadow Charizard. Its coverage is incredible. I think maybe the best in the game currently, although Carving may have heard that a little bit, but man, without shields, it just does nothing. It just does nothing. And Human Catcher Bug just throwing the Surf here. Probably wants to see what's the last Pokemon in the back. With that call from the Gligar, it was Savage Boy was just in such a wicked position there. But also probably because otherwise his Diggersby just cleans up the Gligar as well. So maybe not as much of a problem there. Next battle. This is actually where we're going to see a huge core breaker for Savage Boy, which is the Pelipper. Because the Pelipper is very good against Medicham, and it's incredibly good against Diggersby. This is probably the worst thing that the Diggersby can face. So Savage Boy just recommends playing the Zero Shoots here. You do outpace to 1 Psychic before the Pelipper gets to that Hurricane that will KO. So you never overfarm there. You always throw. In this case, he baits with the Ice Punch, trying to get the 2 charge stacks there. And probably gonna no-shoot, just letting it go. Yeah, it is the Weather Ball, which is very fortunate. And then this Ice Punch will do about 30% or so to the Pelipper. Pelipper is quite fragile. Actually, that's even less than I thought it would. And this is actually more fortunate for Savage Boy. We do have those battles, unfortunately, as well in the Go Battle League. You might be familiar with it. There is unfortunately some lag there, which is actually maybe what Savage Boy needs here. Because here's the problem, right? I'm only showcasing this battle because of the team composition that Savage Boy is facing here. Pelipper plus a fighter. That's likely a very common combination if you face a Pelipper lead. It's either fighters. It's either Pelipper and fighters, or it's Pelipper with steel types, or a combination of either. Driron coming through. which puts this... Is this Scorching Sands range? I would think so. Scorching Sands is really not as strong as Earthquake, though. Right, it's 80 damage. Earthquake used to be 120, now 110, so it's considerably worse. Oh, and then in comes the Sableye. Now this is where the Diggersby definitely is good. But with Scorching Sands, let's see if 2 KO here. I'm not sure about that. This actually might be perfect. Gets the attack drop as well, which is fortunate. Everything's going great in this battle. But what's great about this is that because you land 2 Scorching Sands, you can now farm this down. Look at how little that return does now. You also have that 30% chance to debuff, of course. I love RNG. Yeah, let's see. Scorching Sands coming through. He's even going for a slight uncharge. Knowing the next return wouldn't even KO, likely. Is this even a return? I doubt it, actually. The foul play. Diggersby will live that. Opponent's trying to get the 2 foul plays there. This is probably, without the lag, a game he would not win. Simply because of that Meta Gem in the back. The Meta Gem just is really good against the Diggersby and the Alone Sand Slash. So, very fortunate there. The next battle against actually Dangi Chan himself. So you probably know what's coming. There's a Meta Gem. There has to be a Alolan Sensors in the back. Dangi Chan used to run this with the Galarian Stunfisk, as I showed earlier, and the Alolan Sensors in the back. And in that case, the Diggersby is looking really good. You're a little bit worse against Alolan Sensors without the Fire Punch. It's still a really good matchup, though. Because 2 Ice Punches, I believe, barely don't knock out, and the Shadow Claws just do nothing on Diggersby. Psychic coming through, not shielded. You see, you do tell a little bit of the nerf there, because now you need another Psychic here. I think in the 2 shields it definitely doesn't matter, because you get the opposing Meta Gem in Ice Punch range anyway. Looks like Savage Boy does not want to risk with Charge Stack Parody there. Perhaps as a high IV Meta Gem there. Ice Punch barely doesn't KO. Looks like Dangi Chan really trying to get to the Psychic, but not getting there. Ice Punch may have KO'd him there. In comes Shadow Steelix. I think this is honestly still the same team that he always used to run, right? Because apparently you don't want to tank your energy here on the Alolan Sand Slash or whatever else is in the back. I would think it's the Alolan Sand Slash. Diggersby's really good against the Diggersby as well. This might be a little bit of a mistake by Savage Boy. It may not have been necessary. I think the Scorching Sands definitely would have KO'd, because now you eat a Stab Earthquake, and that does a lot of damage from Shadow Steelix. It might not look like it, but do remember that Diggersby is really bulky, and in the back is indeed the Alolan Sand Slash. So Dangi Chan kind of running the same line still. In fact, Savage Boy was inspired by him and is now beating him with this kind of stuff. Although that's how it's looking right now. I wouldn't say yet so. Here's the thing, though. He got the attack drop, and that's really fortunate, because otherwise Shadow Claws plus Duron might take out your own Alolan Sand Slash. So at this point, you can actually tank 1 charge attack. That's the power of Scorching Sands, the RNG chance, right? There's 30% chance to debuff your opponent. He didn't get on the second one, and now you see you will live that Duron there and get to your own. Look at how he gets really low. Maybe if you're on a really good IV Shadow Sand Slash, you might still get there, but usually not. And that will win him the game. Alright, battle number 4. And this is where Savage Boy is going to face the Corebreaker, Deoxys defense. This is where you kind of want to face it. Diggersby is actually not terrible against Deoxys either, because you resist both Rock Slide and Thunderbolt, which means that if Deoxys throws the neutral Psycho Boost, it debuffs itself, which is not great. Yeah, this is a really bad matchup. I'll show you real quick. You see here that Meta Gem even loses with 1 shield up, right? You lose the 1-0 shields here. So, yeah, it's just really terrible. And swapping into the Diggersby, trying to catch another Thunderbolt, but unsuccessfully. Just like the Deoxys still throwing a Psycho Boost there. This is a pretty good move after all. And then going into the obstacle. I don't think that was necessary per se, but this does soften up the Diggersby a little bit. If this is triple counter, then there is 0 chance that Savage Boy wins this, unless he's a god. In fact, this obstacle even boosts with the Night Slash, so you might have to shield your Meta Gem later, which is probably not something he's happy about. This time he does not get the debuff. Still gets to a Scorching Sands, which is very fortunate. But you might have to shield a Night Slash now. You might have to shield a Night Slash. This is where Meta Gem, you know, it's really nice to clean this up, but you also have to deal with the Deoxys. You need to get Deoxys low. Hope there's not another fighter in the back. I have seen this with a lot of other stuff than a 3rd fighter, though, so it is possible. Has to shoot the first Night Slash. I'm not sure that will KO, but probably gets really close to if not. In comes Deoxys again, which has some energy. The Ice Punches do very, very little damage. Very little. It's just something you can cry about. It's just so sad. You would think that Meta Gem is stronger here, right? Because it has that fighting type, so its counters should do more, but it just doesn't, actually. I believe the counters from Deoxys do 3 damage, those from Meta Gem do 2, and Deoxys is really relying on the defense, and it is triple counter, so there was just never a world where double weak to counter in the back was going to win against 3 counter users. So those teams exist. Sometimes you get hard counters like that in the Go Battle League. And now we look at the adjustment that Savage Boy made in the team. He replaced the Diggersby with the Shadow Gligar, which is a very hyped up Pokemon right now. I don't know, I really can't tell if it's really that good. But according to Savage Boy, it really does what it needed to do. What Savage Boy found was that he was really weak to fighting types, so he adjusted his team a little bit. And one thing that I hate so much about Gligar, it's a very, very IV-dependent Pokemon. I have some things for you that I can show you, like some examples. Let's take a look first at our first battle. So, game number 1, we're going to start off with a Medicham Mirror, and I'll explain to you very simply why this is always good when you have a Alolan Sandslash in the back, because Medicham is not on a Alolan Sandslash. In fact, if your opponent swaps out at some point, you can maybe align the Gligar to the Medicham. First Psychic coming through here, which does moderate damage, and it's nice. It's like the opponent swaps out immediately. And this is actually not that great of a matchup for Alolan Sandslash. With the Power Stone, it really is. But look at this matchup. If the number is slightly above the 500, it means that it's a very small win for Alolan Sandslash. So in the 2 shield scenario, Alolan Sandslash probably wins with like 5 HP left. And that's, I think I simulated both rank 1s here. In fact, I think if you have a little bit of an attack-weighted Noctowl, I'm not sure how IV dependent that might be. It might also be dependent on how much HP the Alolan Sandslash has. But if you land one Shadow Ball and you don't throw any charge attacks, so you keep sneaking wing attacks during the Ice Punches, you might actually be able to farm down. But it looks like Savage Boy decides to let this go, and I really like this play. Or 1, because your 1 Pokemon weak to Medicham is gone now. You have your shield that, well, you can use here, I guess, but you also kind of need it for the Gligar, right? Since the Medicham has so much energy, you don't want the Gligar to be unprotected from an Ice Punch. Ice Punch coming in here as well. I think Savage Boy would have lived that Psychic as well. He probably knows that, goes for his own Psychic here. Really like this play. He also tried to switch there, but unsuccessfully. The game did not allow him. And now he brings in his own Gligar. You have to shoot the Ice Punch here, however. And I don't know. Dig is such a weird move right now, simply because it's like Scorching Sense, which is a new attack, but without the attack drop. So it's really inferior, but it does fit Gligar quite well, and it makes it more viable. It's a Lantern in the back with Spark, however, so Gligar does have play here. In fact, I'll tell you soon about some breakpoints here, or some other interesting things about Gligar. Gligar is so IV dependent of a Pokemon in some of these matchups, such against Medicham and Lantern are some of them. Against Lickitung is another one of them. A nice try by the opponent to catch the dig there, or any charge attack for that matter, but unsuccessfully. Now, about the breakpoint here, what I digged into a little bit is what kind of attack do you need to guarantee an attack breakpoint on Lantern. Why would you need that? That's so your last dig will take them out in the 2 shields. In the 2 shields, you need to do 4 damage per wing attack at least. Otherwise, your last one won't KO. And you also need to bait twice, because then you hit the charge attack priority on the last surf. And that's why you need that attack breakpoint, basically. However, some Gligars can also go straight dig, because they will live the last surf. Ideally, if you really hate Lantern, and trust me, please don't stress too much about IVs. This is basically for your information and your knowledge. If you have like a slightly high attack and you have a lot of HP, you can hit the breakpoint against Lantern. Obviously, it might depend on their IVs as well, how much attack you might need. And you have a lot of HP to live the last surf, you might get to that dig at the very last HP on a Lantern. It's a very IV-dependent Pokemon. It's a little bit tough. Let's take a look at game number 7 here that we have. We have the Medicham into the Lantern. This is very fine for Savage Boy. You might want to need switch here, though. And this is really interesting as Lantern, because you used to win the 0 shields here just with two Thunderbolts. That would outpace two Psychics. But now you're slower as Lantern. I'm not sure how this goes exactly. I'm not sure if you can go like 2 Surfs at this point. Like Savage Boy wants to find it out as well. I think 2 Surfs with the Sparks might do it as well, and that's just maybe barely not. I think barely not actually. Don't shield this. I want to know. Yeah, don't shield that. Thank you. Yeah. So no, this is definitely worse for Lantern. This is definitely... I don't think Lantern is per se nerfed as a whole. It's just better as a flyer counter. But like these kind of matchup, you will realize that, wow, the charge attacks actually were really good, and you may have need those more. This is kind of scary though, because it could be Medicham in the back. Instead, it's a Ferrothorn. It looks like the opponent is Not great against this Alolan Senseless. Going for the Ice Punch. Duron is more energy efficient, I should say. But I think that the Shadow Claws plus the Ice Punch might do it anyway. Savage Boy might know as well. He is quite good, as I know. I'm going to shield that resistive Power Whip. It could have been a Flash Cannon maybe, or a Thunder that would have hit much more. The opponent must be really weak to this Alolan Sandslash. And even lets himself get farmed down. Not ideal for them. It is their own Gligar. And Gligar just doesn't do well. Now, a regular Gligar can actually live an Ice Punch and get to a Dig, which won't KO, but, you know, at least you can fight back. Somewhat. You still lose this matchup really hard. Gligar is just not made for ice. Going for that aerial ace bait, it just doesn't matter because this Alolan Senseless will outpace. I believe this does about 80%. And it looks like that KOs from that range. Game number 8. We're going to take a look at more IVs here. And we're playing against Jonioa, the Utrecht champion. One of the best Spanish players. Top 32 at Worlds. This is another fierce opponent. It looks like Savage Boy is going to play this matchup a little bit out. Again, we've seen earlier that the aerial ace does about 44% from Shadow Gligar, that was, I believe. Either way, it doesn't do too much. It isn't exactly threatening. But the Ice Punch is more threatening. It does about 60%. Between 50 and 60%, depending on Shadow or regular. And also interesting here. Oh, look at that play. I love that. Swapping on the Ice Punch, knowing Jonioa knows the counts on Ice Punch, and predicts that he throws it on the charge attack priority. So I love this play a lot. Let's see what he's going to do now. Looks like Jonioa tries to catch on his Lickitung or just build to an aerial ace there for the Medicham. That energy is actually quite threatening. Now, this is also one of them. There's also an attack breakpoint here. Now, you don't need a lot of attack here. I think most Gligars with like 3 attack are very fine with this, right? If you have like 3 attack and 14 defense, 15 HP, just an example of a good IV spread for Lickitung. You probably get away with the breakpoint everywhere, and it flips. It makes Lickitung way much better. It makes it way much better. You just need a little bit of attack for Lickitung. Catches the aerial ace here. This is a tremendous play by Savage Boy. But I think this Gligar still has some energy. It might be a little bit threatening at this point. Do you shield this attack here? Does shield that aerial ace bait, which is kind of unfortunate. And now in comes the Spark Lantern. I think he won this battle, but I can't really see how. Did he save energy on the minute? Oh wait, he has an Ice Punch stored. He had an Ice Punch stored, right? He swapped with the Ice Punch. Yeah, now I remember. Alright, well, good luck taking this out first. Because this Surf might take it out, barely. Barely not. Does he live that Spark? He does barely live that Spark. Spark, still, I still don't see that it's been buffed. People have been complaining, oh, Spark has been buffed. I don't see it. I don't see it. Prove it to me. So far, it has not been looking buffed to me. In fact, Lantern is slower in its energy gain now, so Savage Boy can farm up more energy here. This might not even KO, to be honest. Aerial is still a weak move. Oh, it actually does. And then you have the Ice Punch for this Gligar. Very well played from Savage Boy. I think that keeping that Ice Punch for the Gligar in the end game just really may have been crucial to win this game. So a little applause there, a little applause. So, but again, a little bit more of attack, and you hit a breakpoint against Lickitung, which makes this matchup way more comfortable. Alright, game number 9. We have the Medicham into the Azumarill. This is kind of a little bit of a core breaker, but Savage Boy told me something very useful here. A lot of people, especially after its Accents Worlds run, are looking for like medi killers, which means that they like hit a breakpoint against opposing Medicham and reach a bulk point against opposing Medicham and win the charge attack priority, so they win the mirror easily. But what a high rank Medicham does, it wins the one shields. It wins the one shield against Azumarill. This is also, it doesn't look like it's an Azumarill with player off here. You don't win the zeros though. But however, it looks like without look at that, barely lives that, by the way. 1 HP. 1 HP. Barely gets that Ice Beam off, probably, right? Barely gets the Ice Beam off. So losing that by 1 HP, pretty big. But yeah, there might be a Medicham, so this is tough. It is Galarian Stunfisk, however. This you should win this straight drill run no matter what as Alolan Senseless. Savage Boy knows this is only a Rock Slide, so he no-shields that right away. It still chunks kind of. The Mud Shots chunk away as well. But yeah, drill run coming in here. This will do quite some damage to that Galarian Stunfisk, so he shields it. And then brings in the Gligar. This is also like kind of an iffy matchup. The one good thing about Gligar is that Dig is just way faster than that Earthquake, right? So that really helps. In the back is a Shadow Hypno. This is wild. You don't see this Pokemon a lot anymore. And we don't have Nice here, so it's kind of unfortunate. But Dig still, look at that. It's a really respectable move now. It's a weird but respectable move, right? You're not used to Dig being viable. It is now. Savage Boy using a shield here to pressure the opponent's shield. I think you might be able to, you might get Wing Attack down. Maybe barely not. you live one more confusion, you don't get wing attack down. Sorry, confusion down, but you might want to. Because you don't want to give that, yeah, you don't want to give that Gligar stuff is more farm, I guess. Now you come in with a drill run, right? You get the Shadow Claw through, but this is going to be very iffy because I think, look at this. He's about at like 54%. Like, if a Pokemon is at 50%, they're in the yellow HP. Look at this. Because he went for the charge attack priority, he gets the maximum amount of damage in. If he didn't do that, the Gligar stuff would get a Mudshot in, and if they lived the drill run then, because there was one less Shadow Claw, then they might get that Earthquake off as you sneak your next Shadow Claw, right? So very smart going on for that scene period to get the maximum amount of damage in. And we have the final battle here, the 10th battle here from Savage Boy. We have Medicham into Sableye. This is a terrible lead. Let's see. He goes into his Gligar as a safe switch. We haven't really seen him safe switch anything yet, so it's cool to see, I guess. This is probably one of the worst leads you can face. You like can never safe switch Medicham simply because Alolan Sensors because of Medicham. Mantine comes in. This is also horrible for Savage Boy. I highly doubt. At this point, it does not look like he's winning any of this. Anyway, if it's no Medicham, there is a chance, right? Because Alolan Sensors can take on a lot here. And Aerial just comes out quickly, which is really nice. But Mantine is bulky, also has Aerial now, which is buffed, and it has Ice Beam, right? Ice Beam takes out a whole family of Gligars. There is one of them. What do you do here? You can't bring in the Medicham, really. Medicham is tough to use in this battle. Going for the Alolan Senseless now. Alolan Senseless does completely wall Mantine now with this moveset. But still, you know, Alolan Senseless isn't exactly bulky, so yeah. And then Hard swaps into the Sableye. The opponent knows that Savage Boy cannot swap it back into his Medicham, right? Or maybe they're really weak to the Alolan Senseless that they don't want to get it let out of hand. Going for straight Ice Punches. This is actually an interesting matchup because Alolan Sensors in the 2 shields is actually quite good here. Simply because you outpace with those Ice Punches. Going for a slight undercharge there. But the opponent decides to shield anyway. And at this point, what you want to do is try and get it off before they throw Foul Play. But Savage Boy keeps that. Maybe he's predicting something really weak to Alolan Sensors in the back. And, you know, Medicham can take these attacks quite much better than Alolan Sensors there. Even though that sounds kind of stupid. Right? A full Medicham is definitely not the worst against a low Sableye, let's say that, because a Foul Play doesn't do as much as an Alolan Sensor. So basically just second the Medicham at this point, hoping there will be something weak to Alolan Sensor in the back. Maybe Gligar? Steelix might be a chance. It's a Skuntank! The Poison Jabs do nothing here. They're double resisted, so you might be able to get 2 attacks here, but this might already do so much. I know it barely doesn't do it in Ultra League, but in Grey League it does, and look at that. Barely clawing down that Mantine. Alolan Senseless was just really good there. It was really good there. So those were the battles from Savage Boy. Now one more attack breakpoint that I want to go through. And again, don't panic about IVs too much about this. It's impossible to build a perfect Gligar. In fact, I'm panicking because I have no idea what to build, if I even had one, to be honest. Now, let's cover my face again with this kind of information. We see here the attack breakpoint that, or the attack that you need to hit a breakpoint against the Medicham. And you see here the matchup against Medicham without the breakpoint. You see here that the 1 shields can actually be a tie. And you see on this one here, this is with the attack breakpoint. And you see that Gligar, this Shadow Gligar is just a little bit less bulky in the 0 shields, but in the 1 shields, your Aerial Ace will actually take them out on the charge attack priority with that Ice Punch. So that could really surprise your opponent in like very competitive formats where these Pokemon are very common, right? Either way, thank you, Savage Boy, for submitting these battles. I hope you liked the battles and found this work well. I will be doing more videos of the teams that I have here as well. And, you know, me and Rise will be trying to supply some more teams that may work for you. Yeah, if you liked it, give it a like. Sorry, give it a sub, whatever. I don't know. There's YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, it's all different. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one.